sports wines that cut my teeth, like making ice wine picking grapes, which is super fun. By law in Canada, you have to pick ice wine grapes between -8 and -11 degrees centigrade. And so you're out there in the middle of January with a headlamp, instead of picking shears and a flask of whiskey, and you just literally just freezing your ass off picking grapes under headlamps and huge lights.
Welcome to Growing Inspiration, the podcast that celebrates beauty, wisdom, and creativity through the timeless traditions of the liberal arts. I'm your host, Shana McLean. Each episode features thought-provoking conversations with scholars, artists, and creative thinkers who help us explain our place in the world. Together we'll explore how the classical liberal arts, from literature, writing, and art, to history, philosophy, science, and music, continue to shape innovative thinking today and contribute to the richness of our lives. Welcome to today's episode. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Theo Smith, owner and winemaker at Capstone Vineyards in Virginia's Linden region. In this conversation, you'll discover why Virginia's variable climate demands a completely different approach than California winemaking, how Theo is pioneering both traditional Champagne method and Charmat method sparkling wines in Virginia, and why he's ripping out Cabernet Sauvignon to plant more Cabernet Franc. We'll explore the fascinating soil variability across the 60-acre property, from granite and quartz to limestone and greenstone, and how he matches specific grape varieties to each unique terroir. Theo also shares his philosophy on non-interventionist winemaking, the challenges of combating invasive spotted lanternflies, and why he believes the collaborative spirit among Linden area winemakers is creating the premier wine destination on the East Coast. Whether you're a sparkling wine enthusiast or curious about cool climate viticulture, this episode offers a masterclass in thoughtful, site-driven winemaking. Let's dive in. So thank you, Theo, for allowing me to come and interview you here at Capstone Vineyards. And you are the owner and winemaker here, as you mentioned, and everything else, the wine club manager.
A lot of hats.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So did biochemistry college. One of the classes was a zoology class. We had to go to my first time spending any significant amount of time in a vineyard was in oh six. And so we had to go to this vineyard in Ohio, and we were getting off the bus, and for the zoology class, we had to collect butterflies. And so they're handing out the butterfly nets. I look at the butterfly net, I look at the vineyard, and there's a crew picking grapes. I was like, ditch the butterfly net, go into the vineyard, and hang out with the crew, pick grapes. It's like, this is awesome. Go into the tasting room, try the wines. Wines were awful. But it was my first kind of watching the process and thinking to myself, that's awesome. Finished biochem, did a couple of years in a cancer research lab. And then went back to school for grape growing and winemaking at Brock University in Ontario. That was all my science credits transferred over. So I was able to finish a 4-year program in 2 years. And then asked my favorite viticultural professor, I said, where would you go if you're a young guy trying to get into the industry? But go somewhere there's no status quo, somewhere that's got all the potential that's just kind of barely realized yet. He said, if you feel like being a pioneer, he's like, go to Virginia. I was like, all right, well, I don't know about being a pioneer, but I'll definitely go there. And so we've been here since 2011, making wine and growing grapes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you went into biochem, that wasn't like your initial goal, was it wine?
No, veterinary.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Apparently it's very competitive. But I did realize, like, I love farming. I love being outside. So anything outside I was happy with.
Yeah. Great. And so when you just got into it, had you enjoyed wine before you saw those guys picking the grapes? And that's kind of what drew you to it?
I enjoyed from a very young age, my parents let us try wines at dinner and whatnot. And I remember trying a Sauvignon Blanc when I was like 7. And I was at a dinner and I was tugging at my dad. I was like, Dad, you gave me wine, but grapefruit juice, because it was a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. And it was just grapefruits. And he's like, it's not grapefruits, it's wine. It's in the grapes. I was like, how does that work?
Huh, that's neat. And so then what drew you, like, what was that journey from college all the way to actually owning this vineyard here?
So college, did 12 years at a winery not too far from here. Started out as assistant winemaker, and then within a year took over all the winemaking and all the grape growing. And that was a larger facility. When I left there, we were doing almost 30,000 cases. Wow. When I'd started, we were doing about 6. And so the growth curve over there was super steep. But I essentially got paid to learn, make mistakes. And you do that enough, and you kind of you're doing a certain volume. You're like, this is great. I'm happy I know how to do that. You make more wine in 1 year than some winemakers do their entire lives, right? So from a learning standpoint, it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. However, it became quantity focused instead of quality focused.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found this site, and this site was planted in 2013 and 2014, and just fell in love with the site. When it comes to grape growing, this is a supreme site.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to procure it back in 22.
Yeah.
And so I haven't looked back. So this is now our 4th year. We're killing it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
And so I know on your website it talks about the soil of this area and the different like soil complexes resident here. What is it about that and about like the Shenandoah kind of this Linden area that makes
So
it so special?
Linden specifically, we're in the Manassas Wind Gap. So we have just steady airflow. We have elevation. Elevation's key because elevation aspect and soil, like that's really what makes a site. And so we're here. Our soil type is Mayersville and Catoctin series soils. So it's made up of weathered silica-based rock. So quartz,
Mm.
granite, schist, shale, limestone, greenstone. And you can look around the property. We have a high degree of soil variability within the 60-acre parcel. And so we're able to dial in which varietal is going on which site. So you can say our Cabernet Sauvignon is on granite and sand. Our Merlot up here is on a kind of a shale and greenstone mixture. Shired's on this a little bit of limestone and quartzite. So it's pretty cool, the variability, and you can plant varietals based on what that little block soil type has.
Wow, that's really interesting. That gives you a lot of creative flexibility then to, know, put it on the soil and then,
You
contribute to the
should be
grapes.
able to dial it in a little bit
Yeah.
better, and at least it gives you more. It gives you more variability, right?
Hmm.
You can switch things up. You don't want to be putting a square peg into a round hole. Obviously, there are some things that are going to work, so do better at least on one spot than others.
Hmm.
And planting is a very expensive game of trial and error because it costs you. I mean, once you own the land, it costs you $30,000 an acre to plant. And then you got to wait 3 years. You got to farm that for 3 years or 4 years before you get a crop, and then you start vinifying it and see how the wine turns out. And you're like, I have a couple horror stories. I've got a buddy who planted 2.5 acres of Sauvignon Blanc, farmed it for 3 years, and after 3 years, you get a small crop, right? Paid to plant, paid to farm. Year 3, small crop, all the fruit's red.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they planted 2.5 acres of Merlot. I had no idea.
Oh.
And that was a nursery issue, but you can see how planting really is. You got to winging it when you're planting is not a good idea because it's very costly.
Yes.
You want to be dialed in and know what you're doing.
Right. Huh. Now I saw also that you have quite a variety of grapes that you grow here, including Roussanne, which I had never really heard about before.
Roussanne's great. So Roussanne's in the same area you find Viognier and Marsanne. Okay? So it's a southern Rhone varietal. It's in north and south. But Rhone varietal, Viognier is a state grape of Virginia. Because some bureaucrat thought Virginia and Viognier sounds good together. Viognier doesn't grow well, doesn't crop well. I can't make a good wine out of it, or at least a wine that I like out of it. Roussanne grows well, crops well, makes delicious wines from the same region. It is a late bud breaker. Love it. Love Roussanne. It's very versatile in the cellar. It can go tank or barrel. It can do little ML or non ML. It can be dry. It can be a little off dry. I haven't tried it sparkling yet, but it would lend it. So it's got a phenolic load that would have to be balanced out, but it could work its way into a percentage blend sparkling as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about sparkling because that's something that at least I haven't really experienced in a lot of Virginia vineyards so far. But, interviewed Seth Chambers at Winery at Grange last year, and he said you're developing his sparkling wine.
Yeah. So we made his first round. So he did, it was a Petit Manseng Chardonnay blend. And so he's doing traditional method. So that's where you have several different ways of making sparkling wine. You can do the traditional method where the base wine re-ferments in individual bottles. You've got the Charmat method, where it's like the Italian way of making Asti, Spumante, Prosecco, Moscatos. That's where your base wine will typically re-ferment in a large pressure tank rather than individual bottles. You can also force carbonate the wine, so you just add CO2 right to it. Or give me a bike tire pump and a rubber hose and to make anything sparkle for you. But I like sparkling wine because of the complexity of it. I think from a technical standpoint, you have to be pretty dialed in because the carbonation will exacerbate any faults. So any issues with the wine will be magnified 10 times at least with carbonation.
Mm-hmm.
So technically you have to be very, very sound as a winemaker. But I also just love drinking sparkling wine.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I'd rather open a bottle of champagne.
Hmm.
So was lucky to study. We got Claude Thibault, who is from Champagne,
Mm-hmm.
owns Thibault Janison. He, back in 2016, became a mentor, consultant mentor, and kind of taught me the ins and outs of making sparkling wine in the
Mm-hmm.
traditional method. Then figured out the Charmat method,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like,
Wow.
just keep playing around with it.
Yeah. What are your favorite grapes to put in a sparkling here?
Love Chenin. Chenin Blanc is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Chardonnay, obviously, like the king of sparkling Chard. It just does so well.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that just hits all the marks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put in some Pinot Blanc here. Alsatian Pinot Blanc sparkling wines are some of my favorites in the world. We get up to 1,500 feet at the top of the hill. And so I'm going to throw a couple acres of Pinot Blanc in there with the intention for it to be sparkling Blanc.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so the ones that you are developing, and do you have any that you've like completely developed and are selling already, or are they still being developed?
We're actually we made a bunch of sparkling wines in the Charmat method. On this Monday, actually, we will start disgorging our 23 our Chardonnay.
Okay.
So the Champagne method, it's been 30 months now on the yeast. And so Claude and I were actually tasting it the other day. And so he's asking what he thinks. And he's like, well, it's elegant and refined. I was like, shoot, that's about as good as a compliment as you can give him, that one. So it's a really nice wine. So we're very excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be our first traditional method sparkling wine that's made from 100% Capstone fruit. Because we've done a couple different iterations where the fruit came from Charlottesville, because it takes years for your own to age. And so we bought in 23, made as much sparkling wine traditional method as we could that year. And now we're just starting to release it. Or we'll start disgorging on Monday, start releasing it shortly thereafter.
Yeah. So would you describe it more as like especially the traditional method, more as what you would expect from the Champagne region?
Yeah. It's definitely geared more towards stylistically. We're shooting for that.
Right.
We've got now 30 months on the yeast. I'll disgorge this first whatever number of cases, and then we've got another couple hundred cases we're going to leave on the yeast to just keep going. I've done this now. Back in 2016, we started it, and I just left a bunch of those bottles from 2016 on the yeast, never disgorged them, and started opening up those a year or two ago. It was like 8-9 years on the yeast, or 7-8 years on the yeast, and it was phenomenal. So there's just no substitute for time.
Right.
So the longer we can let it go, the more we'll let it go.
Awesome. Have you been competing in any of the like the regional or national things?
We started submitting to the Governor's Cup. That's a lot of great publicity within our local Virginia industry. So that's the only one really that we submit to. Yeah. So we don't go heavy after that type of, the accolades we find are just from getting club signups and people just enjoying the wine. I don't put a whole lot of stock into medals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my own bias.
Understood.
But other people do. So we'll do the Governor's Cup.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you did bring grapes from other places. Do you still do that? And do you sell some of yours to others?
Negative. So no, just to get the sparkling Chard going, we brought fruit in, and then for everything else is estate, and will be going forward.
Yeah.
Everything that we sell through this taste room and our fruit we all keep.
Oh yeah.
Selling now. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Cool. So it's a very unique, like you can only get your
we don't do any wholesale distribution.
Here.
Nothing.
Yeah.
We sell out like DTC. I mean, so why would I put it in wholesale?
Right.
I mean, that is marketing, but everyone, if you want it, come on out. That's kind of we appreciate that. We're not like our wines age beautifully, so we're not really in any hurry.
Yeah.
But so
that's awesome. With regard to there's the science part of wine, which you talked about. You went to college to actually study it, and then there's kind of the art and the creativity part of it. Which aspect would you say appeals to you more?
So that's a good question. I would say I appreciate both. Like the microbiology and winemaking, I love getting yeast cultures going, love all that stuff. But I would say like the science of winemaking happens during fermentation, during that initial from crush. Like I would say, almost argue like picking is art form chemistry blend. I would say the initial fermentation, I would say, is very science focused. And then afterwards, when you're going through and doing red blends or trying to tweak wines and really dial them in, that's where the art form comes. And what you're stylistically, what are you trying to accomplish? What does a wine have to offer as well? I mean, you can put lipstick on a pig if you want, but what does a wine have to offer, and how can it be improved?
Right. Would you say that's a matter of, just experience and just doing it over and over and over again?
Yeah. It's like they say, like, college is great, learn a lot. They don't teach you how to drive a forklift or a tractor, right? And so, like, that's the same thing with winemaking. Like, you got all the nuts and bolts, but it takes years of making a lot of wine and being able to. The wine industry is different than other industries in the sense that if I'm a chef or if I'm a carpenter or if I'm whatever, a teacher, I can perfect what I'm going to do many, many times a day. Sometimes if I'm a chef, I can make that plate 15 times a day and try to perfect it.
Yeah.
If you're a winemaker, you have one chance a year to make wine, right?
Yeah.
And so in Virginia is very different, very variable from year to year. So if you have a really great year, you make a bunch of wine, you screw something up, like, shoot, you got to wait for a full another year to rectify that. And you're not even guaranteed the same vintage. And that's where Virginia, I had this conversation with a buddy about who makes wine out in California. And he's like, why do Virginia winemakers not really care what California winemakers think of them? And I was like, well, for a number of reasons, but it's because Virginia winemakers, like, for us to do well here, we have to be very in tune with, like, the region growing, right? You have to know where the fruit's coming from. You have to really know what you're getting before it comes in. And then you change your grape growing and winemaking practice every year based on what the vintage throws at you. Do you have a lot of rain? Do you have a lot of bugs? Is it a drought here? How's the crop? Do you have any fruit hanging? Like this year, we were down 40% on yields.
Wow.
For there's 5 kind of factors: 2 drought years, spotted lanternfly, cold winter, frosty spring, right? So every year is very different. Whereas out west, like, every year is a varying degree of greatness, right? And they're actually almost fiercely proprietary out west about how they're doing. You have the big houses or the wineries that, because everyone's dealing with such consistency and quality, the little things that they're doing in the cellar, they're actually fiercely proprietary out. So you don't have the sharing of information, I don't think, out west that you do here, where everything's very collaborative.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting together, talking, tasting, like, what went well, what just screw up, like, what happened, how did you do with this issue? And so everything's very collaborative out here. We get together and talk and taste all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Is it I saw, even just driving in here, a number of different signs for wineries. Like, how many
So
people
within a
or
6-mile
groups?
radius here, once Silver Dog opens, we'll have 5 wineries within 6 miles. And not just like any wineries. We have Linden, which Linden is considered kind of the patriarch of Virginia grape growing and winemaking. Jim has done more for the industry than any other person or
Wow.
He's literally, you can see is a Viennese vineyard from here. And then you've got Crimson Lane. We opened up this taste room in January 23. Crimson opened up in March of 23. And they're a very different business model than us. Like, it's very it's kind of like a Napa Valley feel. It's very classy, very expensive, very, very, very awesome to have them next door, because you have to drive by our front sign to get there. And since we don't do any marketing and they do a ton of marketing, you get a lot of overflow. But they're also great neighbors to have. And we got Fox Meadow at the top of the hill. They're awesome. That's actually where we take all of our fruit. I lease their cellar space to make wine up there.
Oh, okay.
And then we've got Silver Dog, which is about to open across the way. In front row, we have Rotano Vineyards that just opened up. So we've got, it's a cool little pocket. Our goal here in Linden is to make Linden the premier wine destination on the East Coast. We think that based on the quality of our fruit, the quality of our wineries and our sites, that we will be able to do that.
That's
we're all
great.
very passionate about that.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And so, Silver Dog's just about to open. A bunch of them are fairly new. So is everybody kind of still, like, getting their first vintages out, because, or how?
Well, that's a great question. So when we bought this, the previous owners had made wine in 2015 and 2016 over at Linden Vineyards. So when we bought the property, we inherited a bunch of that wine. So we were able to hit the ground and start selling immediately. Crimson had started making wine at another winery about 4 years before they actually opened. And so they opened up and they were ready to go. Silver Dog, same thing. They've been making wine for the last few years somewhere else. Now they've got inventory, they'll sell. So everyone's kind of doing it the right way.
Yeah.
No one's like, building it and then selling a bunch of wine from out of state or that's not theirs. And then like, well, eventually we'll have a vineyard. We can sell our wine. Everyone here is like, no, we're selling. Everyone's very prideful about what we're doing. This is Linden fruit. This is Linden, not an AVA, but this is our area that we are very proud of. Not bringing in outside fruit and slaying it to make it back.
Great. And what would you say would be like your next challenges? Like you mentioned, like planting the Pinot Blanc. What are your like next visions for this?
For this site, there's been a lot. So we're on a really steep hillside. So flat land is hard to come by. So building is hard to do. You have to be really judicious about where you're putting things. And so we've punted now for the last couple of years on building a production facility, but definitely like down the line, we need to build it, bring all the production here. So that's a project for down the line. But right now, like it's more just building the vineyard out. We've got winemaking taken care of. We need to get some planting done and start building that. And just growing the club. Yeah. We're not in it. Like the 3 years that we've been open now have been incredibly rewarding and very successful by any stretch of the imagination for a nascent winery, which is considered a relatively challenging industry. And so we're just looking like we've just been growing slowly, like not overextending ourselves, and it seems to be working. So we're just kind of building as needed and growing slowly, and we're quite happy with that.
Yeah, that's great. And when we first came in, we were kind of talking about the educational side of wine. Can you describe kind of all the different things? You mentioned that some of the people who work with you here in the tasting room get a certification and that sort of thing.
Yep.
What's that called?
So the WSET is one. They've got a couple of them, but essentially we have what I think is very intriguing about the wine industry is a number of different levels you can be involved. So you can be on the growing side, the selling side, the winemaking side, marketing, import, export, pairing, like food and wine type things. And so I think it's important given our area where you have more, what I would say, discerning palates coming through. People know wine, so you can't really bullshit them, right? BS them. And that's not really what we're trying to do. And so we try to hire tasting room staff that are very knowledgeable and have a degree of understanding and certification of wine. And we can teach that. I mean, first and foremost, I need someone who can talk to people who's good at hospitality. First and foremost, forget we're in the wine industry. We're in the hospitality industry. Once you forget wine and think hospitality, then boom. All right. So we've got a good environment where people feel welcomed. Now, if I've got someone who's just really good at hospitality, doesn't know very much about wine, just train them. Like that's not hard. It just takes time. And sometimes you have people who are super wine knowledgeable who just suck at hospitality. Like, all set with that. Thank you. Because that ends up just alienating. Right? I'd rather have someone who's really good at hospitality, knows a little bit less about wine, than someone who knows everything about wine but can't engage people, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all about like the interaction and developing those relationships and creating hopefully long-term, productive, healthy relationships with our clients. We're not looking for someone just come do a tasting, leave, and never see them again.
Right.
We want people to keep coming back.
And do you find that your clients, do they come in like asking lots of questions and wanting to learn more about it themselves?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. We have very inquisitive people. And I think now after a few years of being open and having Crimson open and like people, I think word's getting out that we're up here and people are coming, hey, we're going to invite you, Sawyer's on the highway or whatever. And that's one thing where the Governor's Cup is really great for getting like the local word out on the street that you're here. If you do well. If you don't do well, just don't market it.
And do you do like wine events or anything here, like in the summertime? Yep,
we do. Well, we have 3 dinners we do that are kind of competition style dinners. So we have our first one's called the Cockfight, but COQ.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's 2 poultry farms. The dishes are the chickens cooked the exact same way, but they're 2 different farms. And so you have the 2 chickens or whatever the dish is, essentially cooked the exact same way, denoted by different colored toothpicks. So you have the side in the middle, you have a ballot sheet, right, which one you have. Then you have the growers, the ranchers, the farmers are up and they do like a state of the industry. Then the other one we do is cattle battle. So same theme, but it's 2 ranchers, 2 beef ranchers. And then we do the swine and wine, and some pork related. But those have turned out to be really popular with people. People like that edutainment thing.
Yeah.
It took us a couple of times to kind of dial in like how, it was kind of a complex dinner to put together. And so it takes a degree of coordination. But once you figure that out and you get the right team in place to do that, they're very replicable, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When's the cocktail?
I haven't set the dates yet.
Okay.
So I'm just, it's 10 days into the new year. I'm already 3 days behind.
Oh,
I know.
sorry. What other, like, what events might you have coming up in the spring, or like when does your kind of season really kick off?
So it's certainly in the spring.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. I hope that we just hit Valentine's Day and roll and never stop. That would be good. So for like Valentine's Day, we'll do like a food and wine pairing.
Mhm.
And then in the spring, we'll do like some oysters, some seafood dishes. And then, or seafood, like the oyster people out here. Things like that. We don't like go after live music and things like that. It's not really what we're trying to accomplish. We want to get people out here and just hang, just enjoy conversation. And I find like sometimes you're paying a musician and either it's too loud and they're drowning you out. You can't have a conversation with anybody, or they're so quiet. You're like, why am I paying? What are you doing here again? So yeah, music's not really my thing with the winery, but I love food.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you think your sparkling will be ready for Valentine's Day?
Oh, it's gonna be ready on Monday. I'm hoping that we're doing a sparkling rosé too. That I'm hoping in the Charmat method. It's gonna be close, but it should be done going through that secondary fermentation in the Charmat tank by February. So that one's kind of maybe, but we'll have our still rosé we just bottled. We did a Blanc de Franc this year, so a white Cabernet Franc. So we have a nice lineup of wines for Valentine's Day.
Awesome. That'll be great. I'll look forward to that.
All right, so this is we call it our C squared. So it's a blend of Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc. So 93% Chardonnay, 7% Chenin Blanc, made sparkling in the Charmat method. So we took our base wines. Both the lots were fermented and aged for 10 months in neutral French oak barrels independently, and then blended together in tank. And then made sparkling, goes through secondary fermentation in the Charmat tank. Yeah. So one thing that we started doing is we realized that we need to keep sparkling wine on the menu. And so we'll do 1 year, all the Chardonnay goes to Champagne method. Next year, Chardonnay, Chenin go to Charmat method. The following year, it's going to go to Champagne method. So it allows us to keep keep our Champagne method going and aging, but then also keep fresh sparkling wine a little more lively, different style. The difference kind of from a tasting standpoint of the Charmat method and the Champagne method is the Champagne method's got much more surface area of dead yeast in contact with the wine because it's in a bottle laying on its side. And it ages for a lot longer. Typically, it's a minimum of 2 years. So you get much more yeasty kind of brioche characteristics. And then the Charmat method, because you're in a tall, narrow tank, you have much less surface area of wine in contact with the dead yeast. It's also only staying in there for, really it only takes 6 to 9 weeks for that secondary fermentation to happen. And then you can bottle after that.
Right.
Why you would do a natural re-fermentation, the difference between natural re-fermentation and forced carbonation is the quality of the bubble, the quality of the mousse. So you get a tighter, more refined bubble that keeps streaming off the glass when it's Champagne method, and you get bigger kind of like soda pop bubbles when it's the forced carbonate method. They're very fleeting, they don't last very long.
Right.
The natural re-fermentation is much tighter, longer lasting bubble.
Right. Yeah. So you'd say like the Charmat's kind of in between the two, in between traditional method and forced carbonation.
It's more like, I would say it's from a tasting standpoint, it's more like a Champagne than a forced carbonate. Forced carbonate wines are kind of like your gimmick, right? We do with our cider.
Oh, okay.
And so our cider is like, it doesn't really need to be super complex. Arguably, actually, the yeast, the contact actually detracts from the appliness. So for our cider, we'll actually make that base, and then it goes right into the Charmat tank. We'll actually force carbonate that one.
This is I can kind of smell the yeast on the nose a little bit.
For sure. So 10 months in French oak barrels, we'll do that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. And so the Chard and the Chenin were both 10 months in on the yeast before they went into the Charmat tank.
Right. Yeah. It's got a little bit of I don't know if I call it like sourness, kind of at the back.
Tart, not sour. Sour would be a negative.
Okay, tart.
Negative attribute. Tart is good.
Yeah.
We're looking for tart.
Yeah, very nice.
I guess we'll stay with whites. So the Blanc de Franc here, the first time we've done it from 2025. So it is a white Cabernet Franc. The fruit was picked about 3 weeks earlier than you would otherwise pick it for red wine making.
Okay.
So it was very intentional. We keep running out of white wine. So the way the vineyard's laid out, we have 8 acres of red fruit planted and 4 acres of white fruit. And so over the last couple of years, just kind of take the red fruit, make red wine out of it, take the white fruit, make white wine out of it. Well, we're sitting on like 4 years of red wine inventory, and we keep selling it over the whites and the sparklings. So in 25, I peeled off pretty much all the Merlot, made rosé out of it. So we do a still rosé, which is this one, and a sparkling rosé. Peeled off a third of the Cab Franc and just made a Blanc de Franc, just in the vein. Like the only way we're getting more Capstone white wine on the menu is by taking red fruit and making white wine out of it for the next few years until like our plantings come online. Like that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so in the vein of trying to, I've not made a Blanc de Franc before, but I thought it would be interesting. I was a little nervous at pressing because when we were pressing the fruit, like you're picking it early and the whole cluster is going to the press, treated like a white wine. As I was squeezing it, like the juice came out with a little more pink than I was comfortable with. And I was like, oh, it might be a rosé. I was like, I already got enough rosé. I don't need to make any more rosé. I need a white Blanc de Franc. But after fermentation, the yeast have a leaching effect on the color, lightened her up, and we got a true white wine here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so basically just making a white wine out of red wine grapes is just getting the skins off of it.
Yep. Well, or just leaving what you do. You squeeze the juice out, leave the skins behind, and just ferment the juice independently of the skins.
Right.
For red, you'd be incorporating all the skins into the fermentation and trying to get all the color and everything out of it.
I gotta say, I much prefer Cabernet Franc as a white than as a red.
Really? We've got a red Cab Franc here too.
I'll try that one. We'll try that one too. It's one of those. It's like it's very popular in Virginia. It's everywhere, but it's never. I think I've had some that weren't done well.
Yes, I mean it's easy to butcher anything.
Yeah.
But fortunately, like we have again, like our site. Though it sounds cliche to say, but the work is done outside. We bring in extremely high quality fruit, and our job in the cellar is just to guide it through the process. We did just actually bottle this yesterday, so it's a little bottle shock right now. But I'm super excited about releasing it to the club here in the next. It goes out in the next shipment in March. Yeah.
So that's definitely got some tartness.
Yeah.
Too, and would you say is that lemon?
Oh, lemon. It's got a lot of to me, it's got like this kind of strawberry gushers thing. Like it's very unique. And it'll as it settles after bottling, it's going to continue to open up and kind of become more cohesive. Right now, it's a little bottle shock right now, but I mean, it's a unique wine that's going to be quite delicious and I think pretty well received. Yeah.
Could you explain to our listeners what does bottle shock mean?
Oh, so bottle shock there's sheer force on liquids when you're going through pumps and filters and hoses, and the wine in this case was grapes in September, and now it's a finished wine in bottle. So there's quite a shock to like the process, and so once the wine goes in the bottle, the sheer force on liquid does kind of makes it seem less cohesive. It kind of makes the nose a little bit more mute than it should be, or when it will be when it's done. But after about a month in bottle or thereabouts, like it does start to kind of come back together, and kind of the nose opens up a lot more and the palate's settled down. So it is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. All right. Rosé of Merlot here. So again, another one. I mean, barely rosé. Pick early, treat it gently. The only thing like we add to our wines is a little bit of yeast, and that's pretty much it. Very non-interventionist. We want the fruit. We want to express the fruit. We don't want to we're not trying to insert our will onto the wine. We're trying to let the wine show what we have here on the site, because we have a unique site, and so the wines are expressive of that.
Right. Oh, that's very different.
Merlot's, yeah, the Rosé solid. We made about 100 cases last year, and it was gone in like 6 months. Rosé is very popular anyhow. But so I think the sparkling. So we did roughly half sparkling, or half still. The other half will be sparkling. Which again, you talk about like the yeast have a leaching effect on the color. This has got to go through a secondary fermentation. It's going to lighten up even more. The sparkling iteration will be even lighter than this. there's going to be a point where you can't actually call a wine rosé if it doesn't have any color.
Right.
But I think we'll be all right.
That's really, really nice. I've had a lot of rosés that are so heavy on the grapefruit that it's almost too much, and it's very, very smooth, really.
No, rosé is an easy one to not. I mean, everyone, a lot of the times, rosé is an afterthought. You're like, oh, it didn't fit here, boom, make a rosé, or take some white wine, take a little bit of red wine, boom, make a rosé. Again, we're pretty deliberate. We're very deliberate with what we're doing. So this is not an afterthought. It was very, from when we pick to when it gets in the bottle, we have an idea of what we're trying to accomplish, and almost 100% of that is affected by when you pick. The timing of picking is just paramount for this, especially this style and the Blanc de Franc. Because like you miss that window, you're gonna end up with something that again, it's like it didn't hit where you wanted to, not because of what you did in the cellar, but because when you picked.
Yeah, and how much do you get screwed up by weather? Or you mentioned the lanternfly.
Weather's a challenge, bugs are a challenge, everything. Like it just keeps you on your toes. You have to be very vigilant. You have to have a good team you can rely on. Like at a moment's notice, hey, we're picking. Like, all hands on deck. And so but it adds, I mean, the team building for like, it's good to have those situations where you have to get everyone moving in one direction for the cause, right? It actually helps solidify and create a stronger foundation for the business.
Yeah. What do you do to combat lanternflies?
So current best practice is to cut down all of your tree of heaven, which is their preferential host, also an invasive species from Asia. And so cut down all of your tree of heaven on the property, leave a couple big ones, and then you girdle them. You girdle it, so peel off the outer layer of candium bark, or you can take a drill and drill like a 45-degree angle, like a big, like inch bit, go down into the tree, and you just paint it. If it's a girdle, you paint it with insecticide, or just pour insecticide right into that bore. It will get taken up into the tree. And so when the spider lanternfly go and lay all their eggs and feed and mate, they all die. So that's current best practice. Yeah. Labor intensive, but it's effective.
Yeah, it seems to help.
Virginia Tech has a parasitic wasp in quarantine right now, also from China. That is the only known predator of spotted lanternfly. And so they're running all the clinical trials and all the lab trials to determine whether they can release this parasitic wasp into
whether it's going to affect lots of other things.
Yeah. It seems like they're migratory. I mean, they started up in PA. They're pretty much out of PA. They were in Winchester really bad a few years ago. They're pretty much like not that bad in Winchester. Looks like they're migratory and heading for warmer climate. So next stop, Charlottesville, I think.
The lanternflies themselves.
The lanternflies themselves are there. Because we had them really bad in 24. And last year they weren't too bad.
Yeah, they weren't quite as bad.
There was still a lot. But then hopefully in 26, hopefully it's like the Japanese beetle or stink bug. It's like you have an initial influx, there's a lot of them, then the native fauna start taking care of them. They start moving away. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Everyone always gets worked up. They're quite detrimental. They cause a lot of damage. So it's worth getting worked up for, but just take a step back, and before you release a parasitic wasp into the wild, maybe we'll just see how migratory these things are.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's try this Cabernet Franc.
All right, and then red Franc. Cabernet Franc does really well on this site. The pretty simple winemaking. I mean, again, this is only 10 months in French oak barrels. So pick the fruit, separate it from the stems. Sort it. Whole berry fermentation. A couple punch downs a day. About 3 to 4 weeks in fermenter. Press it off. Separate press fraction, like essentially separate free run from press fraction. Then 10 months in French oak barrels. This is about 30% new French oak. Thereabouts 27-30% new French oak. The rest is neutral French oak. And then kind of trade barrel age for bottle age. Prefer from my own standpoint, reds that are more fresh and lively, that have some vibrancy to them, rather than reds that spend 24 months in barrel, and by the time they go into bottle, they're already tired. They just flatline in bottle and don't really improve, versus putting wines like this into bottle. These are 23 is an incredible vintage. But the wines just keep climbing to get better in bottle, and then they start to kind of peak and get a little long in the tooth. But for me, this is the style of red that I like to make. And so people seem to appreciate it. It's funny, at home I don't really drink a whole lot of red wine. Like occasionally I'll have some red wine. I am very much a sparkling white and rosé guy.
Yeah.
And so if I had my druthers, I wouldn't even make red wine. But there's a certain percentage of the market is looking for it, and we have a nice site for red wine making, so we keep doing it.
So you mentioned that you have much more of your property is in red grapes.
Yeah.
Are you planning to kind of leave it at that, and then anything else you plant is going to be white?
I have nothing on the horizon to plant any more reds. I'm happy with what we have. If anything, I'm ripping out reds. Like I ripped out a quarter acre Cabernet Sauvignon and put in more Cab Franc, because Cab Franc does better than Cabernet Sauvignon. So I would keep that Cab Sauv block. Will probably keep getting less and less. I'll probably keep putting more reds in there because it's a nice little red site where that cab is. But we don't get Cabernet Sauvignon ripe very often. Like once in 5 years, you might get it ripe. So like, why do we have it planted?
Yeah.
I mean,
so when you say that the Cab Franc does better, you mean it does better in growing and ripening?
Gets riper, makes a better wine, everything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's got a little bit of it reminds me a little bit of like European reds at the back.
Oh yeah,
it's
and that's like we are very kind of our topography, our latitude, right? Latitude, yeah. We're on the same plane as France. I mean, we do. Our climate out here is much more redolent of a European climate than California is. California is like Spain, right?
Yeah.
Very hot, very dry. We're way more like that kind of Bordeaux kind of region in our growing. For sure.
Right. And now you had worked overseas in some...
Spent some time in southern France. Yeah. So definitely did a lot of winemaking and growing in Canada. Then France, did southern France, kind of Avignon area, Provence, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you mentioned in Canada, what are Canadian wines like, or what's their
cool climate viticulture?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Pinot Noir. You have a lot of hybrid grapes. You've got hardier like reds, Baco Noir. You've got like they've got Cabernet Sauvignon planted. It is not what you. It makes a very different Cabernet Sauvignon than what you like. But the Pinot Noir does super well. A lot of ice wines that cut my teeth, like making ice wine picking grapes, which is super fun. By law in Canada, you have to pick ice wine grapes between -8 and -11 degrees centigrade. And so you're out there in the middle of January with a headlamp, instead of picking shears and a flask of whiskey, and you just literally just freezing your ass off picking grapes under headlamps and huge lights. And it's again about team building. Is like that's kind of a cool thing to do with a group of people and develop relationships and whatnot.
That's awesome. Do you anticipate, like, we don't ever get cold enough here that you'd be able to do anything like that, right? Yeah.
And anything you see that down here, it's people either taking grapes and freezing them and just not letting them age on the vine, letting them get frozen naturally, or just taking juice, freezing the water out of it, and then fermenting the sugar of the wine, the juice. But it's not as a Canadian, we frown upon that kind of. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. These are wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to the new sparkling.
Yes, Monday. Come back.
Yeah. Well, maybe come back for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
And but thank you so much.
Cheers. Yes, absolutely.
I really appreciate it, and hope that you have a really awesome season and much less frost and fewer bugs.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Growing Inspiration. Please take a moment to subscribe and share with someone who needs to hear this today. To learn more, subscribe to my newsletter at my website, gardenofmydelights.com. I'd love to continue the conversation and hear what you would like to explore next. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, Substack, and YouTube at Garden of My Delights. Until next time, keep nurturing your creativity and looking for beauty and wisdom all around you.